Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on how to solve real-world problems using equations with variables on both sides. Our learning target for today is I can use equations with variables on both sides to solve problems in real-world situations. And so we're going to just go ahead and get started right away with our very first example. And so when you're reading the word problem, you want to pay attention. First of all, you want to listen for keywords, key information, and you want to know what you're really being asked to find. What is it that I don't know that I need to know? So let's read the question. It says Bill weighs 120 pounds and is gaining 10 pounds each month. Phil weighs 150 pounds and is gaining 4 pounds each month. How many months will it take for Bill to weigh the same as Phil? And so, what is it that I want to know here? That's the first question. What do I need to find out? What is the question? Well, the question here is how many months will it take for them to weigh the same? So I want to know how many months it's going to take for Bill and Phil to weigh the same. So since I don't know the number of months, that's going to be my variable. So in this case, I'm going to use the letter M to represent the number of months because it's what I don't know, but I need to know. And now let's just go back to the first sentence. In the first sentence, I'm told that Bill weighs 120 pounds and is gaining 10 pounds each month. So for Bill's weight, I can figure out Bill's weight. First of all, I know that he starts off at 120 pounds. And he is gaining 10 pounds each month. Gaining is a key word. And gaining tells me that I'm adding 10 pounds. But is he only adding 10 pounds? No, it's each month. So that's going to be multiplied by M, the number of months. And so if I wanted to figure out Bill's weight, I know that it's going to be 120 plus 10m. So if the number of months was 2, for example, that would be 120 plus 20. Because in 2 months, he gains 10 pounds each month. That's 10 plus 10, which is 20. Now I need to do the same thing for Phil. Phil weighs 150 pounds. And he's gaining again, so he's going up in weight. We're adding weight, 4 pounds each month. So that's going to be 4 pounds per month, 4 times M for the number of months. So at any point, if I want to figure out how much Bill weighs, this is the equation for Bill, the one in green. If I want to figure out how much Phil weighs, then that would be the equation in teal. Now the question asks me, how many months will it take for them to weigh the same? Since I want them to weigh the same, this means that Bill's weight, which is 120 plus 10m, has to be equal to, because the same means equal to, that has to be equal to Phil's weight, which is 150 plus 4m. And I set these equal to each other because I want to know when their weight will be the same, their weight. Now, from here, I can go through and solve my equation with variables on both sides. So the first thing I want to do is draw a line down the middle of the equal sign to remind myself that if I do something on one side of the equal sign, I have to do it on the other. The first thing I want to do is move the smaller variable. The smaller variable is going to be the smaller term that has the letter m. So in this case, I have 4m and 10m. They both have a variable, which is the letter m. Now 4m is smaller, so I'm going to move that 4m by doing the inverse, which is the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 4m on both sides. When I do this, over on this side, 120 was not touched. So I'm just going to drop that down. In here, I'm left with 10m minus 4m, which is a positive 6m. And that's going to be equal to 150, drops down. And then positive 4m minus 4m is just 0. So I can cross that out. Now, my variables are all on one side. I only have the letter m on one side. Now I want to move my constant to the opposite side. In this case, I want to move 120 because it's on the same side as my variable. I don't want anything on the same side as my variable. So to move a positive 120, I need to do the opposite of positive 120, which is negative 120 on both sides. Now, when I do that, 120 minus 120 is 0. So those cancel out. 6m drops down. Drop down the equal sign, and I'm left with 150 minus 120, which is 30. All right, we're almost done. Now I need to continue to get m by itself. And to get m by itself here, we're currently multiplying by 6. So in order to get m by itself, I need to do the opposite of multiplying by 6, which is dividing by 6. When I divide by 6 here, 6 divided by 6 is just 1, so those cancel out. I'm left with m equals 30 divided by 6, which is 5. So the answer here is that it will take Bill and Phil 5 months for them to weigh the same. Now let's look at the next example. Here we have example number 2. Example 2 says Pedro opened his account with $710 and withdrew $35 per week. Maria opened her account with $570 and withdrew $25 per week or weekly. In how many weeks will they have the same amount of money in their accounts? So first of all, what do I want to find out? That's the first thing I want to ask myself. Well, I want to find out how many weeks it will take for them to have the same amount of money. So since I want to find out how many weeks and I don't know the number of weeks, then I'm just going to let the letter W represent the number of weeks. So your variable is always going to represent what you want to find out. So reading back at the first sentence, it says Pedro opened his account. So let me just write down Pedro's name. And this is what I know about Pedro. Pedro opened his account with $710. 710. But he withdrew, that's a key word, withdrew $35 per week. If I am withdrawing money from my account, I am taking that out. So that's going to be minus 35. So that is minus 35. However, if I leave it as just minus 35, that means he only withdrew that one time. Okay, but he didn't just withdraw that one time. He is doing that every week, per week. The word per here tells me that I need to multiply by the number of weeks. Since I don't know the number of weeks, I'm going to multiply by W. So to figure out how much money Pedro has us after a certain number of weeks, this is the equation that I would use. 710 minus 35W. Now let's look at Maria. For Maria, it says she opened her account with $570 and she withdrew 25 per week or $25 weekly. So for Maria, she started with 570 and she also withdrew. So we're subtracting. So we're subtracting again. She also withdrew. She withdrew $25 per week, which tells me to multiply by the number of weeks, which is going to be represented by the letter W. Now that I have the equations for how much money they have in their account, I need to go ahead and set up my equation that will show when they will have the same amount of money. And so Pedro and Maria will have the same amount of money when those two equations are equal to each other. So 710 minus 35W has to be equal to 570 minus 25W. Because this is how much 710 minus 35W is how much Pedro has. 570 minus 25W is how much Maria has. So if I set them equal to each other, I will know how many weeks it will take for them to have the same amount. So the first thing I want to do is draw a line down the equal sign to remind myself that whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. And I want to go ahead and move the smaller variable to the opposite side. Negative 35W is smaller than negative 25W. So I'm going to get rid of that negative 35W by adding 35W to both sides. You always want to do the opposite. When I do that, 710 is untouched. So I just bring that back down. Let me change my color. 710. Negative 35 plus 35 is 0. So that cancels out. Bring down the equal sign. 570 just drops down. And then negative 25W plus 35W is positive 10W. This is the equation that I am left with. Now that I have my variables, my letter W all on one side, I want to move whatever's on that same side to the opposite side. So let me once again draw my line to show that whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. And I'm going to move 570. Because 570 is positive, I'm going to move it by subtracting 570. Because when I subtract 570 from 570, I'm going to get 0, which is what I want. All right. So from right here, 710 minus 570 is equal to 140. Bring down the equal sign. 570 minus 570 is 0, so those cancel out. And then I bring down the 10W, but I'm going to write it over here. Okay, I'm almost done. Now what I need to do next is get rid of that 10 that is in front of the W. To get rid of that 10, I need to do the opposite of what it's currently doing. So it's currently multiplying W. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 10 on both sides. When I do that, 10 divided by 10 is just 1, so those cancel out. 140 divided by 10, which is 14. And then on this side, I'm just left with W. So W equals 14. What this means is that it will take 14 weeks for Pedro and Maria to have the same amount of money in their account. All right. So hopefully this helps you. Please let me know if you have any questions on this, if you get stuck while practicing. Please shoot me an email and I will be happy to assist. Bye, guys.